I'd like to offer an idea that might be better than fact-checking Donald Trump. Try treating his disinformation as signposts that show you where he's going. It's a lot more useful, although if you're Ukrainian, it's also dark. Watching Trump's address on Tuesday and his haranguing of Ukraine's President Zelensky a few days earlier was a good example. In both cases, he unleashed a fire hose of nonsense. That included his favorite line about how the US has spent $350 billion supporting Ukraine compared to about $100 billion for Europe. Just not true. The US has spent about a third of that and less than Europe. The American president also suggested that Ukraine and Russia share equal blame for the war, and he hammered Zelensky for failing to show any gratitude for US generosity. Again untrue. Russia invaded Ukraine, and Zelensky has thanked America hundreds of times for its support. This is infuriating, but what it tells us is that Trump is trying to spark outrage among his supporters so that if and when he does cut aid to Ukraine, as he did at least temporarily on Monday, they will support him. He's also setting the stage to push Ukraine into a ceasefire deal with Russia that could leave it defenseless. Zelensky got in trouble on Friday precisely because he was pushing back against the administration's narrative. He insisted that he get security guarantees from the US in exchange for the mineral rights that he was about to sign over to it. He was right. Without solid security guarantees, any ceasefire risks ensuring a better prepared Russian invasion later, just as it did when Moscow broke a 2015 truce to re-invade in 2022. So how do we know that Ukraine's future security is more like 98% of the problem in getting a lasting end to this war than the 2% that Trump talked about? Because it's the thing that the two sides just couldn't agree on the last time that they tried to draft a ceasefire agreement back in the spring of 2022. If talks were to resume, the two sides would be further apart today than they were 3 years ago. Back then, for example, Russia wanted Ukraine's military to be capped to 85,000 troops, while Kiev would go no lower than 250,000. Ukraine now has 980,000 active duty military, and that's barely enough to hold off the 1.3 million that Russia has under arms. In fact, what Trump's fabrications tell us is that a lasting ceasefire for Ukraine isn't his priority at all. It's just a tradable asset in his bid for a wider reset with Russia.